Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Game Breakdown, a podcast where we break down lots of different games. Today is an exciting one, and will probably be a bloody long one because we are going to be breaking down WoW itself, World of Warcraft.
Oh, I just love it. I love it so
The
much.
nerdiest game ever invented. So, we have to just basically come out and say that we have played this game. We had a period of our life that was devoted to this game, should we say? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think everyone does though. I think majority of people have devoted like a lot of time to it. You can't not.
You can't not.
It's
If you're
too
a fan
good.
of RPGs, you can't not because it is an MMORPG. It's like it's that but with other people.
Yeah, and if like no one's played it, I think you probably still get a trial, I'd imagine. Just try it out and like I think a lot of people see it as quite a nerdy game that like you shouldn't touch, but
Mhm.
you really need to experience it at some point. There's just something about it. I don't know.
There is something definitely about it. There is something that draws you in because it looked like a game I would enjoy, and then when I played it, it sucked me in. And like I had so much fun on that game, but there were times when I played it and I wasn't really enjoying it, but I was still playing it, and I would still play it again the next day. Like there was like an addictive quality about it.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of it sounds really bad, but like obviously, like a lot of my family noticed that I was playing it a lot. You know,
Yes,
like
same.
I'd play games a lot. Yeah, I'd play games a lot anyways. But there was just something about this that you know hours just fly by because there's always something to do and
Hmm.
so much to work towards. So yeah, it's just the hours go, and everyone was like, "Harry, you're playing that game like way too much," and I was just like, "I can't help it." And I think because
Literally.
you was on it as well, and
Mhm.
we'd kind of made friends on there quite
We
well.
made friends in there. We had people at school that were playing it.
Yeah, it was
Like
like, yeah,
it got deep. I remember there was one time where I was playing it at like 3 in the morning. And my mum came into my room and she saw the light on and she opened the door and the exact words, "Are you on that fucking game again?" And I was like, "No," and like the panic that washed over my body. But
oh,
my
so
god.
good.
Okay, so why did you pick this game up? Let's start from the beginning. So, where did you first hear about the game? How did you very first hear about WoW? And when did the obsession start? Let's start there. Let's start somewhere easy before we get into this.
Well, you were, as far as I remember, like I think I'd probably seen like,
You throwing me under the bus. Is it
yeah,
my
I am.
fault?
I'm doing it.
Okay.
I thought I'd seen it before, maybe like pictures, but I never really knew what it was. And it wasn't
Hmm.
until you sort of told me about it, and I think you were like, just get a trial, just see what you think. And I got the trial and really enjoyed it. And then I just remember us in our like massive school bags going
Hmm.
into
Oh
like
God. Year
going
7
into
bags.
yeah, year seven bag. Going into game and buying the subscription card, and then that was it. Like we were just absolutely hooked. So
Yeah.
that was my first experience. I remember it was we found out because I remember I found out from you. You did it.
It was me. I did it. I'm the king of the nerds that did it. I first found out about it because I had a cousin who played it, who was a lot older than me. And also we had some friends at school who had mentioned it. And I was like, oh, I've heard about this game that's kind of like, it involves magic and involves like hack and slash and that kind of stuff. I was like, I'm really interested in that. I love dungeon crawlers, blah, blah, blah. And then a few people were like, you should play WoW, you should play WoW. And I was like Googling it and researching it. And the more I looked it up, I was like, this game sounds like a bit of me. But then like I was also Googling it and seeing how nerdy it was and how if you were a WoW player, it was like let's be real. Okay, the connotations of like a WoW player, you live with your parents, you live in your basement, you're like some kind of virgin, you're like a loser, a loner, no one talks to you, your only life is online. That was kind of like the stereotypical WoW gamer, wasn't it?
It is. It is just this
Right.
basement dwelling. Yeah.
And I feel like in some people's eyes, that's still WoW players or gamers today.
Well,
Like
they did that that kind of like not spin off, but that spoof of it in
South
South
Park.
Park. Yeah,
Yes, Make
and
Love Not Warcraft, one of the best episodes ever.
he was just shitting himself. Like he wouldn't leave. They
With,
took like all the stereotypes and turned it up by 10.
I love that. Mom, more hot buckets. And then she comes down right away, hon. Um, yeah, I Googled all these things and saw that if you played WoW, you were basically a dickhead and like a loser. So then I remember when I then was like, okay, well, like I really want to try it. And my cousin came over to visit and he was like, just log on, like you'll really enjoy it. And he paid for my first month and was like, look, I'll pay for your first month, see what it's like. And then the problem began. And then I'm pretty sure I told you about it, if not as it was happening right after. And then we started playing it, but then it became like a dirty little secret, don't you think? It
Yeah,
became something that like I played in complete secret, and only you know that like knew that I played it,
yeah,
and like vice versa. And
yeah.
it was like the thing was like no one can know that we play this game because we're fucking nerds. Like, but I love it so much.
And it's annoying because it's an actual like it's actually a very complex game, and there's a lot
Hmm.
of like we said with previous games like Resi and stuff, like they come across a certain way but they're not. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's the kind of thing with WoW, like you know, you have like clans, like you do like
Hmm.
you design your own guilds. I mean, I'm not sure what it's like now because obviously it's been a while since we both like first played it,
Yeah.
but there's just so much to it, and it's like, why does it have such a bad name? Like, I'd love to know where that actually really came from,
Me
because
too.
everyone I've sorry, I was going
Go
to
go
say
on you.
everyone I've seen that's played it kind of in recent times, there's never been that stereotype, you know?
No, I've never met anyone who plays it that meets that like image that I've got. Well, like okay, let's talk about the South Park image. They have the guy who they fight with, who's like the best WoW player like on the realm, on the server, and he's that like overweight guy, full of energy drinks, like no friends, loser. What we just said. I've never met anyone that plays it that fits that stereotype. But I remember it being such a big thing and obviously when you're a teenager, you really care what people think. And I was like, I can't let anyone know. But then eventually, then someone in our graphics class, who shall remain unnamed, we were talking to them and they were like, oh, you play WoW, don't you? And then it became this thing where like I went bright red and I was like, oh my God, I've been like outed. Like someone knows the secret. And I remember being like, I've like tried it, I've like played it once or twice, and I was like really embarrassed. And then when this person kept mentioning it in public conversation, I would literally seize up, like, you can't tell people that I play this game.
I
And then we
know.
found out that someone else was playing it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And then there was a lot of other people, and we thought, okay. And then a very select group of people knew, and then we become like brothers in arms. Like just like the four or five of us would like just play it, and that was it.
Yeah, I wonder if that's like a common theme for most people, that you have your kind of you like your WoW circle that no one
Hmm.
really knows about. And I don't even think Shana knows. I don't think my partner
Oh,
knows.
really?
Yeah,
What, that you were like a proper nerd?
yeah,
That you were a basement dwelling loser?
yeah.
If only she'd
No,
have known before the wedding.
but all jokes aside, it's a brilliant game, and I
Hmm.
think people should definitely play it, especially if you're into RPGs, you're into strategy, and just socializing. You know, I think in this kind of time, it could probably benefit some people, I guess, to get into something
Definitely.
new like that. If there's, you know, if they're kind of feeling a bit out the, you know, out the social kind of side of things and they want something new to play, like just give it a go. It's
Well,
definitely
especially
brilliant.
in like quarantine, I would say.
Hmm.
I mean, I said to you numerous times. I think we said it to each other. If the both of us were furloughed, because just in case you're wondering, neither of us were furloughed and worked through the entire thing. Um, if we were furloughed, I would have 100%. I'd have been on that subscription, and I'd have been gaming my life away on WoW.
We do though, don't we? Well, we've done it in the past where we have breaks and then we go back to it for like a month and then we realize we need to not go back to this as much as we are. But it's
Or
changed, doesn't it?
I was gonna say, let's talk about that. So we did play it as okay. So just for everyone listening, so we did play it as teenagers. I would say, I don't know. I'm gonna hazard a guess at like 15. Would you say somewhere around there?
Yeah, it's got to
We
be
were in like
around
year
then.
nine, weren't we?
Mm.
So like 15ish, and then I played it. We played it for like maybe on and off for a year. Like I would sometimes cancel for a month, then go back in, depending on my 15-year-old finances. Um, Play it for a little bit, and then I definitely stopped before like sixth form and stuff. So I think we only played it for like a year and a half, like regularly,
Mm.
and then we took a big break, and then I think we stopped playing it for at least a good few years. Like I remember being in like year 13, the last year of sixth form, and then I was like, oh, let's play it again. And do you remember you came to stay with me for a little bit, for like a month, and you were at my house, and then we played it then for the couple for like some of the weeks that you were with me, and then when you went back home, we dropped off again, and then I think me and you again picked it up. Was I with you? It was this was years later, and we were like 24, and we played it for literally a week and a half.
Yeah, because that's when it had that Garrettson update, and I couldn't believe it,
Yes,
and I was like, "Oh my god, you can have Garrettsons now!"
yes. What was that? Was oh, what was that update called? It was called because the latest one's Battle for Azeroth. It was
I was gonna say
oh
Lich King,
shit.
but it's definitely not that.
No, it was after that. It was
Was
after Cataclysm. It was called something. You had wait, where's my phone? I need to Google this.
yeah.
So because it's gonna annoy me. So okay, so I've googled it, right? So it was called Warlords of Draenor, or like
That
WOD for
yeah,
short.
that was it.
So that was, I think that was the one where the garrisons came in, because that's it. Okay, this is a really good thing to mention. So the timeline I'm giving you of when we dipped back in each time was round about a new expansion. And I feel like that's quite typical of an old school WoW player who doesn't really play anymore. When the new one comes out, you drop in for maybe a week or two, maybe even a month if you've got the time, and then you dip out. So we started playing when Burning Crusade had just come out, maybe just a touch before. I remember having vanilla, and then like a week later, I was able to get BC. So we started playing in 2007 ish, maybe 2006, maybe. And then Wrath of the Lich King came out in 2008, and we were still playing then. We were still playing when Wrath of the Lich King came out. And then Cataclysm came out in 2010. Now, we definitely had dropped off by then. And I remember installing Cataclysm and playing, and then stopping. And then Mist of Pandaria was 2012, and we definitely jumped back on for that one for maybe 2 weeks. I feel like I literally would log back onto my character, max them out, and then drop out. Like I
Yeah.
wouldn't even bother doing the
I
others.
think the issue is though, like the kind of relationships that you build when you're playing it.
Yes.
And I think because we'd left it such a long time, people come and go and maybe they come back, but you're not on at that point and you kind of
Hmm.
because obviously like when we started playing, I think that's when social media started to kind of take off more. And in a
Yeah.
way, WoW was almost like an alternate social media because your friends were on there, you met new people.
Yeah, it kind of
Um,
was. Yeah.
and I think that's kind of the situation. So you think back really fondly of it, but when you go on now, it's people aren't there anymore, and it's a bit like oh, and then you don't really stay as long. But if it was as you how you'd left it, it probably would be different. But
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this game is the king of like nostalgia games.
mm,
Like this, we had because you have so many fond memories because it was with all your either real life friends who are playing at their house, or as we used to do, get our laptops and sit in the same room and play next to each other, or it was like friends you've made online who are no longer around. So like, there's you always think of it so fondly, but then when you go back, like you said, it's completely different. Well, let's like say then. So why did you carry on playing WoW when we first started playing? What kept you subscribing, and what kept you playing, and what kept you loving life?
I think the first time it was just how big it was and
Hmm.
how everyone you saw was a person. Like
Yeah.
you could go up to them and you could talk to them, or whisper them with like the purple,
Slash
is that
R. Is that
yeah,
right?
slash I
Yes.
don't can't remember.
Was that
Um
reply? That was it. You pressed like slash R to reply to them or something.
yeah.
It's been a
I
while.
think it was that. I don't know. It might have been. But yeah, you could like I think the first thing that really struck me was the fact that everyone was a person, and
Hmm.
like whether you were playing it alone or whatnot, you always kind of ended up talking to someone and doing something. So you never
Hmm.
felt like you were actually playing alone.
Yeah.
And as well, it was the just like the charm of it, especially when like seasonal
Yeah.
experiences, they'd have Christmas, you'd get a present.
Yeah.
It would be Halloween, there'd be
Oh my god,
pumpkins.
Wintervale, whatever they called it.
Yes.
Yes.
And it just kept on giving, and then you'd get
Hmm.
special mounts, and then you'd once you hit a certain level you'd start doing different dungeons, and then you could go
Hmm.
to a different dungeon, and then you'd meet people and you'd run it really well, and it was like it just kept on giving. There was never a reason to not play it. I think
Yeah.
that's what kept me hooked. I'm assuming you're the same, like
Kind of similar. Yeah, I would say the same thing kept me going. Definitely. I think what I also enjoyed, like at that age, is it was actually a functioning city.
hmm.
Like, because we both played Alliance, so that was the humans, and we would often be in like either Goldshire or Stormwind, which were like the two social points of the like
well, with
of
the auction
Azeroth.
house, with the
And the
auction
auction.
house.
Oh, the auction. See, this is what I mean. The auction house. There was oh, it's not the mic. There was always something going on, and I felt like like you said, you log on and you see a sea of people, and not one of them is like an NPC. Like
Hmm.
everyone is someone sitting at their own computer being a loser like you, and like that was the fun bit about it. And like it had its own currency, it had its own like auction house, it had its own bank, and like you had to manage those things in real time. And I felt that was like, it was quite realistic. I actually did feel like an adventurer because I wasn't just like killing and then getting XP and moving on. I had to actually like manage my item space, manage my own money. And then it was like it was almost like real life. It was like, I don't have any money. What do I do? Do I go and kill some boars, or do I like go and pretend to be a woman over there and see if someone will give me some gold? Like,
Yeah,
which is a real thing, which we'll get into at some
we
point.
will. We are definitely going to get into that whole
We'll get
whole
into that
scenario.
because that is a
Um,
dark hole.
I think one of the fun things was as well though. It's like I said before, like there was always something to do, and I used to love. I'd say I'd go into like a what was it we used to call them? It wasn't like a dungeon. What was it? There was a word for
An
it.
instance.
An instance. Yeah, I'd go in an instance.
Yeah.
Um, while you were offline, and then maybe the next day I'd show up with like a new mount or something. You'd be like, where the
Yes.
fuck did you get that? And I'd be like, oh well, it was only, and it's like this kind of, I had to need every 5 minutes to get it or something,
You were
like
being a ninja, as they
being a
say.
ninja. I wonder if that's still the term. Someone has to let us know if you need all the time, are you still a ninja? Do you
Yeah,
ding
is
when you
that still
level
a
up?
thing? Oh my
Do you,
god, ding! I forgot this like
do you
this like
ding?
terminology. Do you remember ding? And then people like guz in the chat like GZ, like grats.
It was so good, man.
This is gonna
Such
be
a good
this
game.
episode's gonna be full of nostalgia. This is like hitting me right in the feels. So do you remember also boosting? So when you were such a shitty level that you would like beg some random level 70 and be like, oh my god, man, like woe is me. And they'd be like, no problem, I'll boost you. And they'd suck up all the experience, but you'd at least make money. And you'd be following them behind and they'd just be destroying everything. And you beat their back. And they'd have to like heal you because you do something stupid like walk
You'd
into
run
a
off.
room by yourself. Yeah,
You'd
run off.
aggro when you
Yeah.
were. It'd be
Oh
like,
my
stop aggroing, And then yeah, and you just get leveled up, and it used to be brilliant. And the hotspot for that was in like Stormwind
yes,
in the
it was
Alliance
because you go
section,
into oh my god, what was
the
that?
barracks. Was it the
Yes,
barracks?
but it was no, it was called something else. It was Dead. No, not Dead Mines. That was the one in Westfall. Why is all this coming back? This is.
Because
I
it
feel like
never leaves.
it never leaves. Why do I know the names of these cities and places? Oh, what was? It was a prison. It was a cell. What was it called?
I thought it was the
Oh,
barracks. I need to Google this.
Google it because I don't think it was called the barracks. I think it was called something different. Go on.
Okay, I've Googled it.
Yeah.
The stockade.
Stockade. That's it. Oh my god, the stockade. And they changed that when we went back to playing it, when we played WoW like the fifth time. I remember they changed the instance and they had Hogger down there. It was, again, this is all just coming out of my mouth, Jesus. They had Hogger down there and it started another quest. And I remember going back and being like, this is different to what I remember. And I was like, I don't like the way this game is changing. And that was when like the seed was planted that the heydays were over.
Yeah, because yeah, it definitely changed. I remember the biggest kind of thing that hit me was when we played it is seeing how low a level it was for people to have mounts and how quickly
Yes.
you'd level. You'd level within like what 2 hours? Something stupid. That used to be a
Well,
grind.
literally, I remember when people would say if you made like level 20 or whatever in under 2 weeks, that was like an achievement. And then it was like, oh, I made level 20 in like 2 hours. And that's just not how. I mean, that okay. Let's just talk about that. The things that we loved about the game, we just said a moment ago, were like how it was realistic. We loved the gameplay. I used to love the grinding. I used to love how, even though it was hard to unlock mounts and unlock new spells or whatever and get more XP, it was an achievement. After I had to go and visit my trainer to go like give me some extra spells that I just learned, and then you had to raise money to buy these spells, by the way. I felt like, oh, do you know what? I finally achieved level 24 and I finally got like my upgrade to Shadow Bolt and like, bitches better beware because I'm OP now, blah, blah, blah. Like really feeling yourself. Now it was a bit like when you go and play it now, and when I say now, I don't mean literally right now. The last time we played this was probably, I'm
Well,
going to
for
just
me,
hazard
it's
it,
well, I
at
don't
least
know.
three, 4 years, maybe. No, oh, actually, no, maybe even longer.
I think you visited it later on. I never went back to it, but I think you briefly did at one point. I might be
I,
making that up, but I thought you might have briefly seen what it was like.
I might have been at uni. I don't think I've played it since I've been employed. So
Hmm.
that's 7 years, but I can't be that long ago. What is it now? 2020. And where's my phone? When did that last expansion come out? This will be a telling. This will let us know. So Wars of Draenor. Okay, I feel like I played Legion. Okay, maybe I was at work. Okay, I'm just making this up. So Legion came out in 2016. I feel like I played Legion. So that would have been 2016. I haven't played Battle for Azeroth, and that was 2018. So I haven't been on since 2016ish, or anywhere between then. So 4 years, let's say. So when I'm saying now, I'm saying like 4 years ago. Yeah. So it since 2016. That was the last time we played, well, that I played at least, and it was a lot different, very much different. So yeah, even though it was hard, like I was saying, sorry, like even though it was hard to like purchase your spells and all that kind of stuff. It was an achievement. Whereas when you play it now, or like I'm saying in 2016 plus, it was a lot different and a lot easier. So do you remember when you wanted to get a mount, you had to wait till like level 40, and that was when you got your first mount. And then to get your first mount, you had to then get a quest. And I played a warlock, so I had to get a quest to go to some temple far away. And I remember I had to have you and like three of our friends help us from school, and like I had to get loads of like reagents and like ingredients and things, and I had to do a ritual and do a quest and kill the horse, and then it became mine, and it was a whole thing, which was really fun and enjoyable. Then when I went back and played, and I chose another warlock character to level up, it was like, oh, you've hit level 20, just open your spell book and learn to ride. And it was like 100 gold or something. When to buy, do you remember you would be a lot later, like leveled up when you actually bought riding, because it costs like fucking 4,000 gold or whatever. It was
Yeah,
really
it
expensive.
was different
Pay for it
stages.
still.
So it was something like 1,000 gold or something for your first level, and then for you
Yeah,
to get super fast, ultra fast mounts, it started hitting like 7,000 or something. I can't remember. It was a lot though,
it was
and
wild prices, wasn't it?
yeah, it was a full grind unless you knew someone that had G's in the bank,
Yeah, or
which
had like an alt that was like rich as fuck.
is gonna lead us on to relationships again.
It'll lead us on to it will lead us on to the dark hole that is social media side of WoW. But yeah, so before we get there, that is like something else that I didn't enjoy. So the grind had changed. The game was basically easy, too easy. I found that starting a new character within a matter of days, I was like almost full, like fully leveled, and I was like, this isn't fun. Like I'm breezing through this, and once you hit your level cap, there's not much else to do apart from dailies, unless you're like a real WoW nerd. And what I mean by that is like a story nerd, because the story for WoW, like on the odd quest here and there, are like can be funny and interesting, but the actual game lore, I don't really know it. Like I know from like cutscenes of instances and stuff how it can be interesting, but it's really detailed and convoluted. And I feel like I love deep story, but that's too much for me. Like I feel like also because we weren't there at the beginning of the game, we didn't get the hype for the very beginning of the story. Do you know what I mean? And like, I never played any of the games on the PC. They had like Warcraft 1, 2, and 3. Like, so it was all new for me, and I just couldn't invest that much time to learn it.
Yeah, and I think it took us quite a while to reach the highest like dungeons and everything of that expansion.
Yeah, because it was
So
harder, and we
it
were at school
was,
doing homework.
well, we were meant to
Yeah,
be doing it. Yeah,
we were meant to be doing homework.
it
We
was
were
a bit of a
pretending to
wow.
do homework and like not wowing. Yeah.
It's a bit give and take, but yeah. So it's definitely different now. I'm
Hmm.
I'm interested to go back and see it. I don't know whether it's one of those things where it's pure nostalgia,
Yeah.
but at the same time, because they brought out WoW Classic, and I think that was a
Yeah.
bit of a hand to maybe the original players to say, look, like we've got something a bit more. I know we've made a lot of updates, but and I'm assuming it's still as popular as it has been.
I think it's still popular. That's something I need to look out. I know when WoW Classic dropped, I haven't played WoW Classic. I really wanted to, but I just never got around to doing it because of work life, blah blah blah. But I remember when it dropped, it was on Twitch, and Fortnite was like the most streamed thing on Twitch for a long time. And then when WoW Classic came out, it topped Fortnite, and I think I might be making this up, but I'm pretty sure it was like at least 2 weeks, which is quite a long time. And then I remember a lot of people saying to me how shocked they were that WoW Classic was still one of the number one things being streamed.
Mm.
And I would really like to give it a go, because that for me is another thing that upset me about the game. Like just how easy the game become and all that kind of stuff. But the other thing that really killed it for me was when they introduced the dungeon finder, the group finder, looking for group. Do you remember you would have the chats? You'd have like /1 for general, /2 for trade, and then there was /other stuff to like LFG, looking for groups, and you look for raids and stuff. That was like the social side of the game for me. So you'd be like looking for people in Stormwind or whatever who would wanting to do the same raid or dungeon as you. Then you had to agree, like if you had a warlock on your party who could a mage who could teleport you all near, or if there was a warlock who was near the instance who could summon you all, like you'd always have to find a way of traveling up there. And if you were doing like something in the Scarlet Hills, it was like, oh, I'm at the bottom, I'm at Hillsborough, or whatever. I'm gonna just ride up on my mount. I'll be there in 35 minutes. Like, and that was like real time. You were actually traveling to this instance.
Yeah, it's true. And one of my favorite things was though when you did ding or level, if it
Yeah,
was in a very busy area, everyone would be like GG, GG, because everyone
yeah,
would see you spark.
yeah.
So yeah, like again, it was the social side. I think probably more. I think that's quite clever. Like it's a good game that you can grind on your own, but you wouldn't want to, and you wouldn't necessarily have to because you would end up getting put with people, especially when
Yeah,
you do the dungeons. So you're kind of forced into that social circle, and you meet all kinds of people, and
definitely.
always someone that you're going to get on with. It's just
Well, that's what I appreciate actually. Just going off of that is because you remember you'd have the quests, and if you followed a quest chain, usually the end of the quest chain was like, right now you have to go kill a boss in a dungeon, suggested players 5 or whatever, and you're like, right now I have to find friends. And like you say, it forced you into a social situation where like you would make WoW friends, and like sometimes they would cross over into like real friends.
mm,
But with the group finder, when we changed over, I remember doing like 5 dungeons in the space of like an hour, really quickly, just banging them out. I didn't speak a single word to any of the people in the group with me. I didn't really enjoy it, and I was like, okay, that wasn't very
maybe
social,
yeah, maybe now because social media is such a thing, it's not seen as such a social game anymore.
which is really sad to me because that was the whole selling point of the game.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some stories
We've
in
got
we.
some bloody stories. That game, I mean, I know we're talking about a game, but like, I've got a lot of fond memories of that game and some of the shit we used to get up to.
And everyone was
Like,
on the same level though, you know?
everyone was on the same level. That's another thing actually about like notoriety in your realm. So like when you would log on, you'd have to pick a realm, and we started off on a really dodgy one, and then our friends from school were on a different one. So we moved over to Hellscream, which was the realm that we like lived in basically.
Mm.
So when we joined that, you could actually like gain a name for yourself. So if you were like a massive dickhead, or like you were really good at the game, or you were known for something, if you used to drop out of raids constantly, you'd see on the chat people being like, "Oh, I'm looking for a group to go to like this instance." And someone would be like, "I'll come," and they'll be like, "No, you fucking came last time. We remember your name. Like, we're not dealing with you." Or like your guild would become famous, and you'd be well known in the guild for being a knob or for being great, or like there was always be some kind of WoW drama, which I really appreciated because it felt like a little close knit community.
Yeah, it really did. It was like everything mattered, and if you needed something, I mean, I remember once I think I jumped onto Horde just to literally see what it was like, and I ran
Yeah.
through, and someone just started a trade with me, and straight away gave me a load of gold, a load like this
Hmm.
rare weapon, and just clicked like um trade, and was
Yeah.
like, I don't want nothing back. And a lot of that happened. But I also think the most exciting part was as well is when you I know this is kind of going off the social topic, but not really, but
Hmm.
you'd put something in the auction house and you'd set it, and it was
Yes.
like eBay. So
It was.
you'd be like,
That's the
okay, so
reason I'm so good at eBay now.
yeah, everyone's doing this for like, I don't know, like a silver, but like I'm gonna put it for just under, and then if that all went, and then suddenly your price would shoot up, and you'd be like, wow, I put that
Yeah.
on for 20 silver, and it sold for 100 gold, and you used to all
Yeah.
like buzz off each other's like profits, and
Hmm.
it was just so exciting. You'd be like, oh, I sold one of those, like there's loads on there now, like you're gonna
Yeah.
have to wait another week till it's run out, and you'd
Hmm.
kind of be like, okay, so it's not worth putting that up there. And then you'd receive letters off people. And your delivery, if you bought something, you'd go to your little
Yeah.
mailbox and you'd be like, right, I've just bought this for like a bargain. And you'd
Hmm.
open your mailbox.
Bargain.
Absolute bargain. Oh, so good, so good. I do miss it. I do really miss it.
I feel like that game taught me like marketing techniques. Like I now can like function well with using eBay and like all these other sites because of like the WoW auction house. Like that taught me how to undercut people and like beat the competition with your things.
It's
And
true. I'm going to put it on for like a bronze less,
yeah,
and
you know
I'm
what
going
I
to make a
mean?
profit.
Exactly. And if you see if I buy it now, you do the same. You're like, they're selling it for 10 gold. I'm going to put it out for 9 gold and 99 silver. And that way they're definitely going to buy mine. And it would always work. It would
Yeah,
always work. I, that, life skills didn't come from school. They came from WoW.
they did. They actually did. Honestly, I swear, it taught you just to be a certain way. It taught like we said, there's just like unwritten rules and how to behave. And when it came to
Yeah.
like being a ninja and everything, it was like,
Hmm.
like
You'd get a name for yourself.
you would, people would know it. He was like, you
Yeah.
don't do that, And I don't know where these rules come from. I think every game kind of rules are just made, aren't they? It's one of those things, but it was
I think
heavy on
like in
rules.
multiplayer games, there's always a set of like unwritten rules where
Yeah,
like it's just basically your conscience takes over and you're like, oh, we shouldn't do that. But
yeah.
then you get to a point where if the group was treating you like shit and they were being really rude to you in the instance, when it came to your turn, you were like, I'm gonna fucking need everything and I'm leaving.
Yeah,
Like,
and you would, and everyone would be like, "Did they seriously just leave?"
Yeah, they're like, oh my god, what a dig, and then you just walk out of there, and you'd be walking around Stormwind, and you get abused suddenly from like it'd be a week later, and they're like, you've got my fucking weapon, you can't even use it, you're a mage, and I'm a warrior, and you're like, well, it's been sold now, so
I know. Yeah.
just throw a silver at them. We're like, there you go, there's the profit.
It had its dark moments, but for the most part, it's bloody well good, proper good.
Shall we talk about the fact that we started a clan? No, not a clan. We didn't start a clan. We started a guild. That's the word.
We
Not a
did.
clan. It was a
What
guild.
was it called? It was something really silly.
I remember what it was called because I thought the name up. I'm going to give you 2 guesses to remember what it was called.
Oh my god, this is where I show myself up. Okay.
Can you imagine if someone listening to this was like, I remember that guild?
Imagine if it's like the biggest guild now, and we're just
the
owners aren't there. And we're like,
Well, I remember logging on and it was like your guild is like thriving, and I opened it up and we had a full roster, but it was just everyone had been dead for like 30 years. Like it was game over.
I used to
like,
just
oh.
steal shit from the because you
I
could all
remember,
put your stuff
yeah.
in there, couldn't you?
I remember having to pick up the pieces after you stole everything.
I needed that platinum bar, that diamond fucking ore. Fucking hell. Okay,
You can't remember, can you?
Wait, no, you said you were going to give me a hint.
No, I didn't. Did I? Do you want a hint?
Well,
okay. I'll give you a hint, and if you can't get it, I'll give you a second hint, and if not, I'll just tell you. So, it was the name of a really crappy horror film. That's where I got the name from. But rather than using an S for one of the words, I used a Z because Zs were cool.
Hell's Rejects.
Oh, nice one. Well done. It was Hell's Rejects.
Knew it. It was like right on this of my tongue, and then I was like thinking, and then as soon as you said Z, I was like, Hell's Rejects.
Hell's Rejects. That was the
and it was like
guild.
Wasn't it like black and red tabards?
Yes. Oh my god. Okay. Yes. So the tabard that I'm sure I designed it with you. I wouldn't have started one by myself. I would have done it with you. It was like we had a black tabard. Oh my god. And it had a white trim because fashion. And then it had this like fire logo, flame on it, and it had like a red outline to it. A red flame on a black tabard with a white trim.
And it was a little bit kind of, yeah. It was good, man. Loved it. It
was good.
Absolutely. I wore that with pride.
I wore that with so much pride. I was like, I'm fucking like the coat. And we gave it, I can't remember this far, but I remember we had, do you remember when you had like a general, an officer, a private or whatever, and you could name them whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
And I remember I was the Grand Master of something. This is so nerdy. I was the Grand Master of something, and then you were the co-Grand Master of whatever, because we were the 2 leaders.
Yeah.
And then there was all of the plebs underneath us.
Yeah. Sorry, guys, if you're still in it. Sorry if you're like, oh my god, I'm a member of Hell's Rejects.
They're like, I've been trying to get that guild going for ages. We've been thriving. We've been like, we've been struggling without our owners. Yeah, if you're a member of Hell's Rejects, I'm really sorry, and you are entitled to a cash refund of any silver bits that you placed into the guild bank that I then ran off with. I remember when the guild started to die, and I logged back in, and there was like one person on it, and I was like, fuck this. And I remember I just emptied that bank because I had all the privileges. I drained every item, every bit of gold, and I just left, and I took off the tabard, and I was like, almost like I'd finessed everyone. I was like, and that's the end of that chapter. And then just like walked away.
It was annoying though, because it got to a point like as soon as someone set up a guild, like you'd be invited to about 18 guilds a day. So you'd just be walking, doing your own thing, and you'd be invited to like 10 million guilds. You'd be like, no, I don't want to be in your guild.
That was the WoW equivalent of like chainmail and spam mail. Like you'd be walking and it'd be like, join my guild. We'll give you a gold if you join my guild. We raid every day, join my guild. And you're like, no, I'm fine. I've got a guild. Like it was almost like the charity people on the street, like the chuggers. They got like the people who are like, sign up and save the children. And you're like, no, I've got a guild. It's fine.
It's too much. It's too true. That game's too real. It's too fake, but it's too real at the same time.
It's too real. That is literally real life with magic and monsters. The way it was run, it was like real life. Well, okay, before we get into our deep stories, talking of real life, how about we talk about the very famous RP server? That's a roleplay server for people who don't know. Moonglade.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure if you're a WoW player, a current WoW player, or a WoW fan, or like us, like an ex-WoW player, you would know about Moonglade. So Moonglade was like the filthiest place to ever grace.
Yeah.
This like state of Azeroth, the island, the
island.
world of Azeroth. So Moonglade was a roleplay server where you would role play. So people would literally talk as if they were like living this fantasy. But then in the Goldshire Tavern, which is it the Lion Pride Inn? Is that what it's called in the Goldshire Tavern? The Lion is the Lion Pride Inn, right? Or the Lion something?
I can't remember.
Sorry, I'm going to Google this. I'm pretty sure it's called the Lion Pride Inn. And if it is, I'm going to be so impressed with myself. Yep, the Lion Pride Inn. Wow, Goldshire Tavern. Jesus Christ. It's funny how I can't remember um, my bag in the morning or my work ID, but I can remember the Goldshire Tavern that I haven't visited in like 4 years. So people would go there and literally stand on every bar and every table, strip down to their little badly pixelated underwear and just start dancing.
Yeah.
And that was like the soft version. When you went upstairs to the bedrooms, you would see and hear, because people wouldn't whisper this shit. They'd be doing this out loud, like publicly. And you would see night elves do things that you don't really want to see night elves do.
It's just
It's just such a serious sentence. Sorry.
you just took my soul and fucking rinsed it.
Anyway, and speaking of that, there would be a massive culture on this game of, well, people role playing, I guess, people pretending to be other people. So the big thing is you would often see a female character walking around, usually a human or a night elf. A night elf was probably like the most you would see. And then you'd be walking around, especially if you were a male character, and you would receive a little whisper. And where would that whisper go, Carrie? Tell the audience what roughly that whisper would say.
Do you know what? There's been so many whispers.
It would start along the lines of like, "Hi, hun," like
Yeah.
or something like that. That would be how it begins. And you'd be like, "Hi."
I think there was just a lot of thirsty people on WoW. Like a lot of thirsty people on WoW.
There really was, but I mean, in this sense, trying to get money from you.
Mm.
So like, you would always get the whisper, and you'd be like, "Hi, hun," or something like that, or "Hi, babe," with a little kiss, just so because only women use the X because that's like official thing.
Apparently
I'm an old woman.
that's it. Yeah.
That's it,
That's
right?
how
So
you
you're like,
prove it.
okay.
The
Literally,
X is
she
proof.
put an X, so she's got a vagina. It's fully a woman. You're like, cool. And then you'd be like, "Okay, hi," and they'd be like, "How are you?" Like, "Yeah, great." And they'd be like, "Oh, I'm new." That's it. That's the best one. "I'm new to this game." That's how it would follow. "I'm new. I've only been playing a couple of days." Meanwhile, they're wearing like level 70 raid gear. You're like, "Oh, okay." And they would always be dressed in like the most basic clothes. It'd be some like random top that you get from like some random vendor in like Stormwind that you would never actually wear. And they'd be like, "Yeah, I've been playing this game for like 2 days. Really loving it. I'm single, by the way. And I wish I could buy some of these other fancy clothes, but I don't have any money." And this would happen such a regular basis. And then you'd end up but you'd end up being like scammed into giving this random guy money. And then once you gave him the money, you would be rewarded with no titties and just him disappearing with your gold.
Yeah. I think people preyed on people a lot in that game.
That was like why it was more realistic, the real world. Like people would legit bully you and rob you blind. It like got me ready for the real world. Like, do you know what I mean?
But yeah, it's, oh my god, like there's just no rules in WoW. Like things are going off in inns.
Yeah.
And it was just like there was just no rules. I don't know what it's like now. I wonder if they've put like a stricter rule on it, so that you don't get like banned or something. Because I feel like they would have to, because some of the things people would say to you, and even though it would be starred out,
Yeah.
like especially playing as a girl,
Yeah.
you'd get loads of purple messages saying, I call them purple messages, I was like, oh my god, I've been sent a purple message. Yeah, just like loads of random shit. You'd be like, oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm just trying to play, man.
But then it did get to the point where, especially when we would be together, this was when it would be the worst, because we'd usually be like drinking and playing, having a laugh, and you'd always have a good laugh in the middle of Stormwind on like trade chat. Because for some reason you didn't use the general, you'd always chat in trade, and then people would be complaining like, "Use the general, the trades for trading stuff," and you'd be like, "Haha, fuck you!" Like you start in the trade chat, and then when people would start whispering you bullshit, we'd then like start playing along, because it became, especially at the age of like 15, extremely funny.
Yeah.
To entertain these like random people in whatever country they like lived
Yeah,
in. Hmm.
it's true.
Well, like we'll leave that there. So yeah, I do love that game for so many bloody reasons. But okay, so we've discussed that. Another thing I would really like to talk about is just like literally a side note is, do you remember when we were playing? Well, I want to say it was during our like first sessions of playing WoW, like when we very first picked it up. Um, there was this whole situation which is really similar to our life today in a pandemic, and it was when that guy, I'm just going to say that guy, um, went into an instance or a raid or whatever, was infected by a curse, and then they were allowed to Hearthstone back into Stormwind, and then the curse would deal damage and poison people around you and would
Yeah,
kill you off. And then literally he went into Stormwind, infected the entirety of the auction house, and then everyone was getting infected. And I remember logging on and I walked into Stormwind and there was like like a plethora of skeletons leading up to the thing. I was like, what the fuck has happened? So when you would see skeletons in Stormwind, you'd be like, oh my god, the horde are here, like there must be a fight, let's like go see what's going
yeah,
on. And you'd run up, and then I remember there was just skeletons all over the gold, all over the Stormwind fountain, and all in that little like beginning passageway, and that spread and spread. And I think it got to the point like WoW had to reset, Blizzard had to reset the game because they couldn't stop it. It was spreading so quickly, and then it was used as like a real life case study to analyze how a pandemic would spread in real life.
yeah,
And
yeah.
here we are living in a pandemic.
The
See, WoW again, and we're still alive. We've survived. We've so far survived COVID because WoW taught us how to survive a mass spreading curse
apparently it's
slash
called
virus.
the corrupted blood incident.
That's it. The corrupted blood instant. I love it. You googled it straight away.
Of course, I did.
Yes, definitely. I remember that like quite vividly.
Yeah, it was could contact the debuff and could not be killed. So basically, yeah, it was meant to last a few seconds, but I think it ended up being an extended period of time. So yeah, everyone was just like lower level characters were dying, and it just drastically changed everything.
Yeah, it did. It went wild.
But that was WoW, like stuff like that happened. I don't think there's any other game that you could. I mean, maybe we're wrong, but maybe because we were
Oh,
WoW
wild.
people. That, but I can't think of a game that you could ever compare it to. Really, there was
Not
Guild
at
Wars, I
all.
think, but I never really knew much about that.
No, there was Guild Wars, and then there was probably not the same time, but I know that Final Fantasy had their own online thing, and there was a few things. There was oh, what was that one that was released on PlayStation that was meant to be like the WoW of PlayStation? Was it called EverQuest or something? Am I making that up?
There was Neverwinter.
No, that's Yeah, Neverwinter Nights. That are they the company?
I don't know.
Hold
Neverwinter
on.
looked a bit like WoW.
Neverwinter. Oh yeah, you're right. Online game.
Um,
Neverwinter Nights online game. I'm thinking. Hold on. EverQuest.
there's
Yes, it is an online game too, and it was EverQuest 2 as well. This was on the PlayStation because I had it. I had EverQuest. I'm sure I did, and I remember I played it, and I didn't have an online connection that worked for my PlayStation at the time because it was PS2, and I couldn't get it to work. And I remember I had to try this whole like fandangled way to get it to do it, and it wouldn't work, and it was just basically a waste of 20 quid. So I never ever actually played EverQuest, but it sat on my side.
there's Diablo 3. It's quite similar. It's made by the same people as
Oh
well.
yeah. Hmm.
So it's got the same kind of, not similar, but it's got the same kind of font and like UI and stuff like that. And then
Yeah.
there's a Divinity Original Sin as well. Has big WoW vibes, in my opinion.
Really.
Really good game. I act like I finished it. It's a never ending game.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
so big.
I was like,
But
some people are like, I've completed WoW. You're like, mm?
but yeah, so there's I can't think of anything else really that would be massively similar to it. But it'll always be one of a kind.
There'll always be one. I think this game was just like a big turning point in our childhood, really. So, why do you think you dropped off WoW in the first place? So, cast your mind back 16, 17, 15, whatever we said. We've been playing WoW for a little while. We were playing when Wrath of the Lich King came out. We were still playing, I think. I think we were starting to drop off. And then after Wrath of the Lich King came out, we played it for a bit and then we dropped off. Why did you stop playing?
Um, honestly, I think just life got in the way,
Okay.
and it was just a case of I couldn't really be spending that much time on my PC. you
Hmm.
know, playing World of Warcraft as much as I wanted to. It's just the
Yeah.
costs, life gets in the way. I think I did. I think it was probably kind of like before I went to university, and yeah, I just had a whole life change with going to uni and everything, and it was just like it's not like I necessarily say I grew out of it. I think I just had other stuff. But I do always want to go back at some point. It's like
So would you say is it fair to say that the game didn't become boring? You just your life moved on. You were like done with that phase of your life, and you were like, okay, I'm ready to do something different now.
yeah, I think so. I don't think the game. Yeah, I don't think the game got necessarily boring for me. I think obviously, like I said before, people drop off,
Yeah.
and it changed. And then obviously, when you go away and you come back, you notice things that are different, and
Hmm.
gradually you just grow out of it because it's just not what it was.
So
In
maybe
my
the game
opinion.
didn't become boring, but you became bored of the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
That's
strange way to word it, but it works.
okay. I would kind of say I'm quite similar to you then if you're saying that because I really enjoy WoW. I think as well, like even now, I enjoy the thought of WoW. Like when I think back to it and I start talking to you about it, I'm like, get me a subscription, get me signed up, let's go. But then I I always log on and I'm just disappointed. And within an hour, I'm done, and I'm like, I don't really want to play this anymore.
Yeah,
I think I originally dropped off because one, it was costing me money, and as like a 15-year-old, well, okay, let's say I was like maybe 16 by the time we started to drop off. As like a 16-year-old, I'd like just started to like help at my parents' work, and I was earning a little bit of money, and I was like, my money's like a lot of my money's going on WoW. Like it was like £10. Was it like 9.99 a month? Is that right? Like 10 a month, basically.
I think
Or
it
was
was
it
a little
more?
bit cheaper. But I thought it was about 18, or maybe it's 18 for 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. I don't remember.
You're just like what?
I
WoW
think
subscription cost. Hold on, I'm googling it. Sorry.
it all went digital though, didn't it? That was weird as well.
Oh, okay, right. So here's the current pricing. Pricing may have changed from when we were doing it, but no. So 1 month was 9.99. I'm on bloody fire. I remember everything about this game. WoW was 9.99 for 1 month, 9.39 for 3 months, and 6 months was 8.69. I remember once when I was really heavily into it, I saved the like 60p and then like did the 3 months in one go. So yeah, so as like still like a young adult, I was wasting a lot of money on it, and I was like, why am I doing this? It's not really worth it. I've got lots of games that are similar to WoW but are not online, and like other people, I feel like my friends started to drop off. So like people at school weren't playing as heavily. You were trying to sort of like dropping off, and then I felt like, well, if my friends aren't really playing it as much, I didn't want to constantly keep, even though you could easily find people to play with you didn't know, I just wanted to play with my friends. So it was like, okay, they're not really into it. I think I'm going to start dropping off too.
Yeah, I think that's the case, isn't it? Like I think you have your routines
Hmm.
with it. Like you kind of say, well, all right, I've got a few quests I want to clear up, and then you'll go do a dungeon. You'll go to the auction house. You'll sell stuff off.
Yeah.
You'll have a little fly around somewhere and just have a chat.
Hmm.
Um, just trying to clear some more of the map or whatever, and explore some new places. And then, yeah, I think once you've kind of don't have the people that you'd maybe do that routine with and whatnot, it kind of becomes a bit like, hmm, you know. And
Yeah.
I think you can enjoy it because there's been loads of stories online of people that have actually fully had relationships. Like
Yeah.
they've
There's
met
like people
people.
that got like married and stuff.
Yeah, there's people that have got married. They've got full time long distance relationships and everything. So it's not like it's not possible, but I think for us, like because we didn't go into it alone, we went into it with a certain group of people, it
Yeah,
made
it's
it
true.
a lot more difficult to kind of commit yourself more. At least it
Hmm.
kind of did for me. And I think, yeah, you're the same. So it was like one of those things when it like people drop off the map and it just, yeah, it's just one of those things.
Yeah,
But
I think you're right.
yeah, and but like you said, like it's not as social as it was. So I don't think I'd, as much as I want to go back and think I'd love it, I just don't think I would, as much as I think I would. I think I'd walk and I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. That much has changed. That many
Yeah.
updates. It's not a game that you can kind of jump back into because it has to change. Like it has to grow with the audience. And obviously, games these days, I do feel like they are easier unless they've been intendedly made to be difficult, like Dark Souls and things like that. 9 times out of 10, your games are going to be like easier.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I know that's nothing to do with like, but you know what I mean? Like it changes and that, and it
No,
suits
I
new
think
audiences and things like that. So,
no, I think you're right. Things change, the game changes, and you change. What you want from a game changes. Also, I would log on after like a year or whatever. I would have all these quests that I didn't really know what I was doing with. I'd lost the story of, because you know, not the massive story. The massive story was too big, but like the little mini stories in the quests, you lose while you were doing them. And like if I could enjoy it while I'm doing it, then once I come back, I'm like, oh, I can't quite remember what that was, why I've got there, what was I doing? Like I feel like it was easy to get like lost in what you were doing, and then it
mm.
became very easy to be like, I'm just gonna like quit all these quests and go start again somewhere. Like you'd have to just like start afresh because everything become a little bit too heavy,
Yeah,
if you like.
yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just get lost. Like you've loaded into some random
Mhm.
area. You haven't got a clue. Everything's about 5 levels above you, but you used to know
Yeah.
how to use your spells. So you used to know how to defeat them.
Yeah.
Now you're like, nah, and you just
Yeah.
die or something. You have to like try and go back to your like home city, wherever you saved that to. And it's like,
Yeah.
and then you're just kind of a bit lost, aren't you? It's like it is like starting all over again. I think when you load in after a while, it feels like you've never played it before sometimes.
And yeah, I think that's it. I think it's you have to start over again, and you don't want that. You want to just instantly recapture those old memories you had, and it's not like that because maybe the same people that played when you played weren't playing anymore, and like there was a lot there was always a big gap. There was like a big void, and you're like, oh, something's missing from this experience. Why do you think then me and you, we haven't done so recently, but would clock in every time there was a new expansion? We'd be like, okay, let's get a month. We'd be like, the new WoW expansion's coming out. Come on, let's relive our old days. Like, why do you think we would jump back in?
I think like I think it is like nostalgia, and I think for
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of people, it's nostalgia. So I reckon there's like lot of people listening just thinking, yeah, I used to do that, you know, but I guess it changed too much, and obviously you have kids, you have responsibilities, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not expensive, but it's also not entirely cheap, you know, like there's still other things you could be spending that money on. Um, and spending it on something that's active 24/7 and can become quite addictive, it's not something that I think a lot of people want to get back into because some people really care about it.
Really
I'm not
care about it.
sure. I'm not sure if it was a like just a story or something, but I think I told you there was like a help center for people that got so obsessed with it.
Yeah, that's not just a story. That's a real thing. It's in Sweden.
Mm,
I don't know what I can't remember what it's called, but I believe if I'm wrong, someone might correct me, or someone might know better. I believe WoW is like a Swedish thing.
yeah,
Um,
I'm
I
pretty sure.
think,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
or
It
like
is.
yeah. So it's they started it in like Holland or whatever. This like help center for people who are addicted to it because people like. I mean, it's like anything. It's like a drug. I mean, they say like WoW is like crack, like as bad as crack because if you imagine yourself, I think also this ties in. Sorry, I'm saying like 10 things at once. But when you're like a teenager and life is already hard, your life is changing, your body's changing, your hormones are all over the place. You think everyone hates you, and like the world's against you, and life's so hard. Blah blah blah. If you start playing a game like WoW, and you start achieving things in real time. You make friends, you start being really social, especially if you're not a social kid. You start making friends and being really social online, having like, WoW parties and playing with your friends online. You start like completing quests and like even the way the characters speak to you can like have an effect on you. You're like, oh, you're the hero of our city. You're the savior of Azeroth. You're this, you're that. They're like filling you up. And as like an impressionable kid, that stuff can like stick with you. And I feel like if you're not really, if you don't feel like you're achieving anything in real life, but you're like fucking slaying the game in your virtual life, then I'm more likely to keep clocking back into WoW because that's where I'm getting my affirmation. That's where like people are telling me that I'm great. I'm great at this game. My armor looks cool. I'm fantastic at this. I'm really funny. Like you haven't got to worry about your looks or about you know how nervous you are in person. You can literally reinvent yourself online and can receive a lot of praise. And I feel like you can then become addicted because that's your happy place.
Yeah, it's true. Like you can just completely make a new person up. You can,
Hmm.
you know, I don't know how it is now, but I don't think there was ever an option for voice chat, so you really can hide yourself as
Yeah,
much
well, you
as you
could do like
want.
team speak and stuff, but you had to like actively do that. You had to like download the shit. I
Right.
think he
So
says.
yeah, it but it wasn't a common thing, was it? So it
No,
was never really expected
no,
at that
that was like
point.
hardcore players, wasn't it?
Yeah, and
Because
then
remember
there's
South Park were
obviously
like, I can have my TeamSpeak channel. It was like,
yeah, and then there's obviously just that whole, the general thing of like the dopamine rush you get when you enjoy
yeah,
something. Like it's
reward.
yeah, it's the reward. There's a
Hmm.
constant reward with that, like earning loads of money, grinding, meeting people new. Like there's so many different things you can do. So I'm not shocked that people do get really obsessed with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's kind of the main point of it. I think a lot of people have to back off at a certain point because you realize like, what am I actually achieving here? Like when
Hmm.
you grow up and you get out of it, I think for majority of people, I mean, I know some people it's still really important to them and they enjoy it and they build communities,
Hmm.
streamers, everything, and that's great. But I think if you've got other ideas in life, like it's probably the one game that's going to really drag you down if you want to
Yeah.
achieve more. Because if you're on your PC, do I start learning to do my art or produce music or videos or whatever? Or do I just log into WoW and have fun for how many
Yeah.
hours? Like it's an absolute, yeah, time drainer. And you can't move on with your life if you play that every single day and dedicate that many hours to it, because you get different roles, like you said as well. And some guilds are really like um planned out, so people will take that very seriously. They'll set up rotas for like dungeons and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So I think that's the kind of situation for a lot of people. It's like I can't play this anymore. Like I've got
Yeah, but
other shit to do.
literally, it becomes like a full-time job, doesn't it?
Mm.
Because there'll be people. I mean, I remember when I left the Hell's Rejects, and I eventually joined another. I was about to say clan again. When I joined another guild, um, I remember I was kicked out of the guild after like less than a week because all their things said like, okay, right, everyone, we raid every Wednesday. There's also a Tuesday morning raid if you're interested, blah blah blah. And then they would be from like whatever country they're from. Let's just say like China or something, and their time difference was completely whacked. So like they'd expect you to be on at 3 a.m. doing this, and they'd read like expect you to take it seriously, and you had to like accept. And it was like you had to say you were attending a certain raid, and God forbid you said you're attending, you didn't turn up. That was like heresy. Like it was the worst thing ever, and you were removed instantly. And then it was like, well, not only will we remove you, we'll spread your name around the server, and people will know not to invite you to their guild because you're just a fucking waste of time. Like people took it so seriously that you felt that if you didn't take it seriously, you weren't like part of the community.
Mm.
And I feel like it become almost like too much. It wasn't fun anymore. It became like a job. It was like, okay, I've got to go on a raid with my guild. I've got to go and do this. And it became like it consumes a lot of your mind, especially if like a kid.
Yeah, and I think just if you're sensitive to it, like
Yeah.
people can get very sensitive to games. I mean, to be fair, like I've been victim to it. Like Last of Us got me well emotionally drained.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but sometimes it's like games are just so important to people, and you know if it's the kind of if you get addicted to the kind of game that you can have access to 24/7,
Hmm.
it's that times 10. Like it's not, it can end quite badly, I think.
Yeah.
um and make you bitter in some ways because your brain would develop a certain way. Like there's definitely some
Hmm.
psychology behind it. But obviously I would say like games make you violent. Like I'm not one of those people like games make you violent, but I do think
Hmm.
they can kind of twist your perception, and you can get snappy if you want to do something. You've been on that game for ages, you don't realize, and then someone just comes in and they're like, right, you've been on that for ages. Like you get a bit annoyed because you're like, look, I'm busy. But
You
it's
get
like,
defensive because like you're so proud of what you're doing on there. You're like, don't attack my thing.
yeah.
Like
And
this
then
is
you
my
think
life.
it's a fucking game, man. But you don't realize, do you? Because you're in it. So
I feel like this game especially because it's not just a game you pick up and play and put down. Like you complete it and you move on. Like it is a way of life. Like you have to like live this game because you have to play it so regularly because it's almost like having an online life. Like this was the proper social media before there was a social media. Like you have your normal life where you went to school or you went to work, you came home, and then you'd hop on WoW and you'd live your WoW life. You'd have to go and help, almost like your WoW job. Like it was
mm,
almost like your separate life that you had to lead, and that's fucking draining. And like you would be on there until stupid o'clock because I don't know what kind of like time dial like in time paradox would happen. But the second you would log on, hours would pass. And then you would never know because the realm time was always an hour less. So you'd always look at it and be like, oh, okay, it's only 10, but really it would be like 11, or like you were always
yeah,
on it later than what you thought you'd be on it.
yeah. But you can like, I mean, people do things where you'd level up your character, and then you could sell it. You could sell your account for a lot of
Yes.
money. A
Yeah, yeah,
lot
yeah.
of money.
But remember, people would get in trouble for that. That was like a whole thing, wasn't it? It was like you
Yeah.
cannot sell your account, blah blah.
There you go. Because I debated it because I thought, well, I was on it, and we at that period of time we were quite well off with our characters. Like we had
Yeah.
most stuff was leveled up. We had quite a few G's. Like we were like,
Well,
you
speaking of
know,
that, sorry to interrupt you. Do you remember people would sell gold, the gold sellers, who would
yeah,
spam the chat and be like £5 for 40,000 gold, and it seemed, and you know, it seemed so cheap that there was points where I thought, do I do it? And then the only thing that stopped me was I thought, no, if I get in trouble, will I get banned? And I was like, and this is my life, I can't get banned.
yeah. No, it's my life.
No, my WoW job, what will I do?
Eh.
Um, okay, I'm going to ask you a question. What would it take to get you to start playing WoW tomorrow? Like what? Okay, hold on. Before I ask that question, what's stopping you from playing WoW now? Like, why are you not playing it now?
I ain't got time, you know.
Okay, right.
Like yeah, I'm quite. I mean, I've got a house now. Like I treat money a lot more like it's actual money,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I've got too many bigger ideas that I want to focus on, and it's gonna halt it. I know it is because I'll be like, I just want to play it. You know,
Yeah,
I don't know if like I wouldn't. I make myself sound like I might still be trapped in that mindset, but I know that it used to get quite addictive. So if I was to say, if we were to say, right, how about tomorrow we play it straight for a week and we play as much as we want. Say we booked the week off and we were like, let's
yeah,
just play it every day. Guarantee by the end of that week, we would be like, I want to keep playing, you
yeah,
know?
100%.
So it's like, I can't do that, man. Like, I've got to put my money elsewhere and my time elsewhere. Like, if I want to do something useful, that
Mm-hmm.
sounds very harsh because I know a lot of people care about it, but I'm not having a dig. I just mean, wow, and being maybe successful, like not successful, but like productive in what
Mm-hmm.
you want to achieve, they rarely kind of go together. I mean, someone might prove me totally wrong. That might be a very unpopular opinion,
Yeah,
but I just think
I'm
like
sure
if,
someone will.
of course, but I just think like for the 8 hours you've just spent on WoW, you could have been learning something else, you know. But that's me. Like I'm very much like a pusher when it comes to things like that. So
Yeah. No, I kind of feel the same. I feel like real life real life got in the way of my game life. But like it's true. I feel like even for normal games, like forget WoW for a second, like even when it comes to playing my PlayStation, like I rarely do it now. I have to actually force myself to play PlayStation and be like, you know, you like it, play it. Because I find that in my downtime, because like we both have full-time jobs, we both live in our own places, we both have to like run a household and all that kind of stuff. It does like it's really sad and really pathetic to say, but as you get older, like your priorities do shift. And that kind of game needs so much investment to like really thoroughly enjoy it and experience it. And it's so much investment of your time that I feel like I would love to do it, but I just don't have the time to do it anymore. And I feel like by the time I go home from work, I'm shattered. Like
mm.
I've been with the kids all day. I get in and I'm like, I'm done. Like I can't stare at a screen and like go and do some quests.
Yeah. And obviously, like, we enjoy, like, even though we don't game as much as we used to, we pay attention to, like, what's coming out and, like, the more kind of well known ones, I guess, or something that maybe catches people's eye, you know, like what's being
Yeah.
talked about. Like, we always pick them up and play them. But if we were back to playing WoW, like we wouldn't really see that because we wouldn't even think about it. It would just gather dust because we wouldn't need another game, you know? It
Yeah.
sounds really dramatic, but you miss out on all the other games because you just sat playing that same one.
That's the thing. And when you think about it, I've just what you just said just really struck with me. You wouldn't need another game. If it was the perfect game, you wouldn't need another one. Can you just think about how many hundreds of pounds we've probably sunk into that game? Blizzard of proper like they're the reason it took me so long to get a mortgage. Like because when you think about it, how many thousands over the years they probably because I remember I went through nearly a whole year. I thought I cancelled my subscription and I didn't. And I remember and I know that's it. I knew I didn't cancel it, but I was like, it's okay. I love that game. I'll go back to it. And it was a good 6 months. It was like a gym membership. I was like, Joe, what? I will go eventually. And I never did. And it got to the point where I was like, I need to fucking cancel this. I haven't
Mm.
played it in 6 months. Why am I still paying for it? Like, and I feel like WoW like almost relies on the kind of you forgetting that you're paying the subscription because a lot of people did like drop off.
Oh yeah, it definitely does. It definitely has those people that keep spending, 100%.
Yeah. What would you say is okay? So, and I'm going to ask the other question. So, why are you not playing WoW now, like as a game? Like, if you take your life out of it, say, right, Carrie, you've booked the year off of work, we're going to pay you your thing, you can stay at home as much as you want. Why are you not playing WoW?
I think it's just because it doesn't offer me anything anymore.
Oh, that's a bold statement, madam. What do you mean by
Oh,
that?
like we said, like taste changes, and I
Yeah.
like my. I'm just really into particular kinds of games at the moment, and
Hmm.
it doesn't really tick the boxes for that. So I know what to expect. There's not going to be any surprises. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I do love a good Christmas in WoW,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh yeah. Love a good winter veil.
and it's getting festive, and it was going to
Hmm.
happen with all the trees. But yeah, there's I mean, there's new stuff out now, you know, and like I think it's been maybe not part of our lives for like up until now, but there was a large section of our lives where we were very invested in it. And it's like it's nothing new. To me, there's nothing massively new there, you know. So
Yeah.
I just, yeah, luckily enough, I don't miss it that much. But I mean, it could change if I started again. But at the moment, I'm quite happy with with not touching it. So
So
start
if
bitch.
well, yeah, well, if well, yeah. So if I said to you, then okay, but like, well, okay, would you be willing to play WoW Classic? Because for me, I feel like what's stopping me from playing the game, if we take life out of it and just, again, you've been given a year off work, would you start playing it again? I feel like I would say yes, I will start playing it again, and then I feel like I'd fall out of love with it very quickly because this has happened to me many times, and I feel like the reason why I would actively choose not to go back is because it's just not the same game. So like, would you ever be willing to jump into WoW Classic? Because I also heard they're in the middle of doing WoW Classic Burning Crusade, so you can play as it was when we started playing. Because we would just started playing at the crossover, so this would be the perfect opportunity, if you like, for us to hop back in. So I've paid for your subscription for you. Are you playing WoW Classic with me? Like, put it that way. If I was like, we've got time off work, just if okay, if I went to you, right, come down and visit me for a week, and just for that week, we'll blitz a bit of WoW. Would you do
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously,
it?
um,
Yeah, obviously.
like obviously I would, you know, but like I wouldn't be in the kind of mindset where it's like I'm gonna go home and play it. I play it for that, and I don't know what it is. I think again, it boils down to me in time. I try and cram myself full of too much stuff, and that's too big. I see it as too big. I don't see it as just a game. I see it as like a fully. You have to learn it again. You have to figure everything out, you know, and then you get
Hmm.
addicted, and I just feel like it's not a game. It can't be finished. I can't just stop. Like if I
Oh,
was
see,
to take it seriously, like a game,
yeah.
because it's constant. It doesn't end.
See, I don't think of it in the same way. Like,
I
I'm
know,
like,
I know, I know. I know this is like, I know you're like coming out about this.
yeah, as like a closet WoW player. Like, no, I feel like there's a part of me that really wants to go and play it again, but I know it's like it's going to be in vain because it won't be as good as I remember. But if I jumped into WoW Classic, I feel like I'd really want to try it,
Thing
and I feel
is,
like I wouldn't want to try it alone because I loved playing it with like you and our friends and stuff. I feel like if we both jumped on it and played it, I feel like I'd really enjoy it. But the second that you said you were done, I'd be done. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
Because for me, even though the online friends were really cool, the social side of it was good. That wasn't enough to keep me going. It was enough to like, tide me over for a couple of days if my friends couldn't play. But I'd
yeah,
need actual friends to be playing it. I think I'm just looking for nostalgia. That is all I'm looking for. I spend my whole life searching for nostalgia.
it's true. I think everyone does, you know. I think when it comes to
Um,
games like that, we all want it to be something that it was, and like no game, unfortunately, ever will be, because you can't experience that kind of excitement of whatever you saw back then again. First
yeah.
impressions are done, you know.
Hmm.
Um, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I guess you'd have to have played a lot of the new one, the newer versions to appreciate the classic.
Hmm.
Maybe I don't know. Because otherwise you might go into it and think, okay, you know. Whereas you could play the new one and be like, oh, this is so like this, and then play the classic and be like, oh wow, like it's a big difference.
Hmm.
But I don't think there's anything that I see would be like massively like different. Not in the sense that kind of sounds contradictory, but in the sense of like, wow, this is like a whole new game, but it's still just as good as it used to be.
Hmm.
It's not going to do that, you know.
Yeah. No, I get where you're coming from.
What a serious tone we've
Well,
had.
see, I know that went very serious. Let's like lighten up a little bit. Um, okay, so going back to the actual game itself, um, what was something that you think WoW did like right? You know, when like, okay, so the thing is, we got really pissed off when like WoW kept constantly updating and changing everything, and then it changed beyond. We didn't recognize it anymore. One thing that we said is stopping is well, stopping me at least. Carrie, like, yeah, some other things. She has a life apparently. What's stopping me from like jumping back in it is I know if I log on, it's not the same game that I remember. And okay, I'm chasing nostalgia, blah blah blah. But the game doesn't play anymore. The game is too easy, I find. Like, if you were to give me WoW today, my main critique would say it's not the same game. It's far too easy. You unlock mounts far too early. The quests are just, you don't get, like, you level up too easy. Like, it's all too easy. And like, the game has changed so much. They've moved where the auction house is. They've moved where these places are. Um, like, what was something? What is it? Is there an update that you think WoW did that you're like, oh, that was such a good thing to add to the game? Like, you really improved the game by adding that in. Because I don't think I can think of one.
No,
No.
that sounds really bad. I can't. There's not a particular thing. It was just like, oh, it's a new expansion. I mean, it was. I guess it was nice that they gave you new races to play.
Yeah.
But apart from that,
I feel like
no.
the basic game was enough, don't you? I almost feel like I'd be more likely to play now if they hadn't. This is why I'm tempted by WoW Classic, because I wouldn't, I don't think have strayed if they'd have like, because I remember people being like they shouldn't like have an expansion, it's going to be shit. And I remember being a teenager being like, what are you talking about? I want more expansions, I want more content. But like, looking back, I don't want more content. They changed it too much. Like, the one thing that I think killed the social side of WoW for me massively is when we logged back on for, I I'm gonna say, I think it was Warlords of Draenor. Like, the one thing that they fucked up with is that, which I thought was really cool at the time, and then I realized it was a terrible idea, when they gave you your own garrison. Now, we were saying, even from when we first used to play it, imagine if you could have your own little house or your own little area, and only you could go there. And we'd go, do you remember? We'd go into Stormwind, and we'd go into, no, not, okay, what was it called? The Dwarven District. And then you'd walk through and go down a little road, and there'll be like a fake house, and you'd walk in it, and you could go around the other side, and there'd be an actual whole house that you could walk into that you couldn't do anything in. You could just walk around it, and we would often go there and meet there. And we started saying like that was our guild place. And you'd be like, oh, if you let's have like a guild meeting, everyone come to the house, and like we'd go and meet in the house, and we'd always be like, how, like, if only you could like enter an instance, but it was just your little house. Well, then they did it, and I hated it. Like, because everyone was in their own garrison and no one was hanging around Stormwind anymore or hanging around Goldshire anymore. Like, there was no need for you to hang out and like start a conversation or a duel with any randomers, because you could just sit in your own garrison and like hibernate. And I'd have to invite you to my garrison. You couldn't just like wander in and say hi. It'd have to be a whole thing where you have to be in the same group as me, and then I'd have to like port you in. Like, do you agree? Like, do you think that killed it? Because I think that killed it.
Oh yeah, like it's definitely created like a more antisocial kind of divide because everything you need is where you are. You know, like there's no reason to do anything else. Like you've got everything in this little garrison. Like why would you need to really kind of stray that far?
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Because you could customize it, couldn't you? You could put your own thing. So if you were an auction house person, you could have one of your spaces as an auction thing. You could have like an auction robot or whatever. So you could literally put everything you needed within like a 2 meter radius of your character, and you're like, well, this is it now.
That was like the pinnacle. I think that was the
Mm-hmm.
final thing you could do, isn't it, to make it feel as real and all that as possible. Was have your own
Mm-hmm.
gaff, your own place,
You
and
literally have your own gaff.
yeah, and they did it, and now it's like okay, cool.
I feel like that killed off a lot of the social side of it
Mm.
for me,
I mean, we
anyway.
could be totally wrong. It's probably absolutely thriving right now for the majority of people.
See, but I don't think it is. I don't think it
Mm.
is. I don't think we're wrong. I'm not wrong. I'm never wrong. I'm literally okay. Right. You can all hear this, right? I'm going to go on my laptop. I'm going to Google this. Okay. I'm going on to Google, and I'm going to say, right, how many regular players does WoW have? Right, I don't believe this at all. Okay, it's okay. This is saying, when's this from? Here's an article. World of Warcraft. Oh, right. Okay. At its peak, World of Warcraft had about 12 million active players, though numbers have since declined. However, Blizzard expects so much interest in WoW Classic that players will have to queue to enter certain realms. Now, this is so true. When WoW Classic came out, I remember there was a massive queue, and there was people posting loads of memes about it. How it was like, you're in the queue for 2.5 years. Like, it was all really dramatic. So WoW Classic, I think, did help them, but I can't find any official data on like how many players are playing now. but
Mm.
there is no way there's 12 million people playing. Oh, hold on, what we found here. Okay, estimated number of World of Warcraft subscribers from 2015 to 2020. Right, fuck, this drops. Okay, so its peak at 2016. How funny when we started playing. Okay, 2016. I think this is in the millions. Is the millions? Yes, 5.6 million people were playing it. By 2017, 5.42. 2018, 519. Later 2019 was just 5 million, right? And then we go all the way to 2020, and apparently now it's 4.8 million regular users. Now you
Still
could
a lot.
even that's like still a lot, but like they've lost over almost 2 million active players, and they predict that by 2023 it's going to drop to just 4 million. So okay, that's still millions of people playing, but you know, if this information is correct, this is some like random statistics website, but they've lost like almost 2 million people playing. And you can probably say that people would have picked it up in quarantine because they've got nothing else to do. Once real life starts again, if it ever does, I'm pretty sure they'd lose all that money.
Mm. Like I said, I think it's one of those games that everyone's had an experience with, but then it just sort of it fades, you know. I
Yeah.
don't think it's a lifelong game for anyone. Or if you do if you are currently playing it, you will have definitely probably had times where you've like gone back and forward. It's not it's not a consistent game, you know.
No.
Um, but I guess no game can be. But WoW came close.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm.
What are some of your favorite WoW memories, do you think? Is there anything that like you enjoyed doing or remember loving?
Learning to fly was fun.
That was such a milestone, wasn't it? And it cost so
Jumping.
fucking much.
I remember once someone like annoyed me, and I was like, "I'm sick of you. I'm gonna jump off Stormwind," and I
Oh
jumped
my
into the
god.
water.
I remember this. I
And he was
remember
like,
this.
"No," and I was like, "I'm going." Yeah, that was a good moment.
That was like the social side of it though, like meeting strangers and then like doing stupid shit with them.
Yeah, little cheeky Jules in Goldshire.
Oh yes.
Mm,
Who'd always sell our stuff to?
mm.
Oh, Jules. I thought it's a Jules, like the name Jules. Oh, like a jewel.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like a
like a
fight.
duel, like a fight.
Yes, the fights in sorry, I was like, what's she talking about? Yeah, the fights in Goldshire. Yes, there were so many jewels in Goldshire. That was the
Yeah,
place to be. If you were
it was
dueling, you were in Goldshire.
that, and like just outside Stormwind doors.
Yes, because you could never do it in Stormwind, could you? Because they like banned, they wouldn't allow you to do it.
Mm.
How about you'd wait to Halloween and you'd go to Goldshire, you'd wait for that pumpkin to like res underneath the fucking thing, and then you spend your entire day trying to like hack the graphics and jump up the fucking side of the wall, and then you'd end up standing on top of the Goldshire Inn, and you're like, oh my god, I'm on the roof, and it was like the best thing, and then people would duel on the roof, or like you'd fucking oh my god, and the Halloween that headless horseman would attack Goldshire, and then you'd have to
Yeah,
fight him off, and you'd have people from the roof like firing frostbolts, and it was like a really big deal.
everyone was going wild. They
I
had
always
loads of
wanted that
events,
flying
didn't
mount.
they? You did.
Do you remember the
You did.
headless horseman's mount you could get? It was like a horse that flew with no wings. I really wanted that. I never fucking got it.
It was rare.
I'm still bitter.
I know.
Haven't recovered.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Live and learn.
Yeah, definitely.
Just watch some YouTube videos on it. You'll be fine.
No, that's not enough. That's not
Just
enough for me.
Fake live it.
I want to relive it. I miss it. I do
I
miss
know.
it.
I think you should just get it. You're going to send me a picture tonight. Like, so I've bought Classic.
So I bought Classic and I've been playing it for 3 hours straight. I've got work in the morning. Yeah, I loved a good holiday. I loved a good event. Goldshire was where it was at. I just miss it.
Oh no, it was good. It was good. It is good. It is good. It is good. I just think it's different now. But if you've got nothing to compare it to, then you'd probably enjoy it.
I remember when you could do like the modding stuff, the transmog.
Yeah, I never really did that much though. You loved it.
I loved a good transmog. When they brought out transmog, that was a thing for me because that was one thing because we never really used to wear armor and stuff for the pure fact of like protection. Do you remember we'd put on this, like this does like +1 damage. This outfit does +40 damage. But it looks like shit, so I'm not going to wear it. It was like, WoW for us was like a fashion show. It was like, well, my armor doesn't look good. And what I hated is that I was a warlock or a mage, and I always had to wear a fucking dress. I didn't want to wear a fucking dress. I wasn't a woman. Like, I wanted to wear, like, like clothes. I wanted to look like a warrior, but with like the powers of a mage, and that really wound me up because every bit of mage gear or warlock gear was a fucking gown
And
or
I can
robe, if you will.
stand. I
Mhm.
was a female warrior and I wanted some badass fucking armor. And what do I
Yeah,
get? Skimpy fucking chainmail bras,
yeah.
fucking pants.
Let's talk about the
Like that's
the
gonna
over sexualization.
that's gonna protect me in this, like, you know?
Do you remember? I remember like fashion trends in WoW, where like certain armors for like around certain levels would always give you a similar look. And I remember it was around the 60s, around the level 60s. You, in no matter what we got, you would always have your trousers was always be like thigh high stockings. Please tell me you remember your armor being thigh high stockings
Yeah,
for
of
like a
course
good
I
portion of the
do. Of
game.
course I do. I mean, I rocked it, don't get me wrong, but
Don't get me wrong, you did.
I weren't, after a while I was like, oh, I just want to look fucking rough. Like, I want to look
Yeah.
tough. I don't want to look like, because then you get all the creeps talking to you and they're like, I like your armor. And
Yes, that was.
you're like, leave me alone. I just want to sell my fucking, I don't know, wool.
I just want to kill boars in the forest. Leave me alone. Just.
I'm just trying to buy a beer from the inn.
Legit- Oh my god! You remember you could get your character drunk. You sit there, you'd buy all this fucking beer. You sit there knocking it back, and then your screen would start to go all fucking blurry, and it would be like it was like Oblet is now tipsy. Oblet is now smashed, and then like your screen would go fucking wild. And when you would walk, your camera would go in different directions, and every time you typed, it was like like a hiccup after you were speaking.
Yeah, literally, it'd be like dot dot dot, wouldn't it? And then it would say hic.
My
So
god.
funny.
But I loved a good transmog. That was my thing because we finally got what we wanted. That was okay. That's something that we said earlier. I was like, what did WoW do good with an update? That was an update that I was here for. I was here for transmogging, for making my armor look like. Because sometimes I'd have really sick looking armor and then I'd upgrade it when you got a new expansion and it would be like better armor, but it looked like shit. And I'm like, oh, I wish I still had that other like fucking top on.
It was
So
the best armor that always looked like shit. Like that you could get
yes,
that wasn't like rare,
yeah.
like super rare. But sometimes even like ultra rare, whatever it was, still looked a bit shit. And you were like, really? And it was just always a letdown, wasn't it?
Yes, because remember you'd have to get like the honor points for doing like battlegrounds, like Capture the Flag, like Warsong Gulch and stuff. If that's even what it was called, that's just what come to memory. And then you spend all these points, you start grind these points, you spend them, and then your armor would look like shit. And you'd be like, I don't really fucking want this. Or you'd buy a really sick piece of armor, and then you'd go back to the basic world. And you're like, I want it to look like that fucking sick skull floating. I want floating skulls with thunder on my shoulder. I don't want like a random bit of leather. Like I want to look like a bad bitch. Like what? I miss that.
Yeah, same.
See, that's what I go back for. Righty ho, as they say in nowhere. Well, I think we have like literally spoke about this game forever. I could talk about WoW forever. We've got so many memories. I love it so much, but I just don't want to go back to it just yet. Oh, I do, but I don't. I go back to WoW Classic. I don't
You
think
are
I play normal
torn.
WoW. I'm torn because I don't think I'd go back to normal WoW. I can't deal with that. It's too shit for me now. I'd go. I'm tempted to. Okay, let's talk about it very quickly. There's a new expansion coming out. Shadowlands, I think it's called. That's what like prompted me to like bring this whole thing up. Um, I don't know what it's about. I follow like an old WoW meme page on Facebook since I was like 16. They've like started reposting again, and that's how I saw it. And there's like a trailer that's been dropped of like one of the like evil characters. I can't remember her name, Sylvanas, I think, like killing the Lich King, and it's all very dramatic. And I was like, that looks interesting. That's like drawing me in. But I know the game's going to be the same. It might have a really fun little bit of story and probably some fun instances, but it's going to be the same shit. Like WoW Classic might be where I need to head, but I just don't know if I can invest that much time in the game.
Yeah, I don't think they can change it, to be honest.
No. Okay, so I feel like I could talk about this game literally forever, and maybe one day we'll do a part two. I'll tell you what, if Shadowlands looks really good, here's the deal. We have to buy a week or buy a month or whatever, and we'll just do a week. And we have to try it out, see what it's like, and then come back and do another episode and talk about whether or not WoW has managed to fix its problems. Are you down for that?
Yeah, I think I am.
Yeah? You think you would do
That's
that?
the homework.
Yeah. Your homework for today is to go back onto WoW and see if it doesn't suck.
It's
Okay.
got to impress me within a short period of time, though. I'll be like, right, you've got to win me over within like a few days.
A few days. Well, the fact you're even giving it a few days, I'm very proud of you. I thought you'd be like, you've got minutes to prove me. Right. Okay. So we will definitely do that, and we will definitely post that if you lot are interested in hearing more about some of the shit we used to get on WoW. And maybe we'll spill some more stories. Some of them are I mean, I won't lie, we've been very tame. Some of our stories from WoW are fucking crazy. Like, let's just say, I remember we found that person on WoW who we were talking to from Scotland, who was a complete fucking psycho. And do you know exactly who I'm talking about?
Of course.
And then we ended up like adding them on MSN, and like MSN, we're going back some whiles now, and then some very unusual things unfolded. His life was like falling apart, and we were there for every minute of the drama. Oh my god, he was like, I'm being thrown out, and we were like, oh okay. There's us like 15, like, oh my god. We're
Are
here
you
for you.
okay?
Are you okay? Should we go raid? Right, okay, so we'll definitely do that. Right, so I really enjoyed talking about this.
I did. Trip down memory lane.
Definitely.
Okay, well, in that case, everyone, thank you very much for listening to us unravel our stories and our thoughts on World of Warcraft.
Mhm.
Hope you enjoyed it,
I hope they did.
and we hope to see you in the next one.
Yeah. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.